So, so you may use your phones, laptops, or any device you like to access the Slido. The Slido is the application. I can send you an online application. I can send you also a link here in the chat. Just to find the chat, here it is. Or you can access via this QR code, or you can enter slido.com into your web, and then this, sorry, and then this number. So, I propose that we start with the first question, which is, rate your sustainability in mobility. How many stars would you give yourself for your mobility behavior? Is it sustainable or not? I like the answers. It seems honest to me. Mm-hmm. 18 participants answered so far. Very well. You're very good at sustainability in mobility. More answers are coming, okay. Well, we can move on the next question, which is, I travel today on foot, by public transport, by private car, by bike, by electrical bike, or e-scooter. Multiple choice is possible. Great. We have a group that like walking. Pretty exciting to know. But there is also a high percentage of private car, which is also quite expectable. And the last question is, what bothers you the most in everyday traffic? Also, multiple choice is possible. Traffic congestion leads. So these are the answers. Very interesting. So traffic congestion, 71%, impacts on health, 63%, air pollution, 58%. Well, I will move back to my presentation now. We made a group photo and play some pool. We warmed up. So we saw the results of the pool, the use of private motorized vehicles in cities is responsible for a lot of negative externalities such as air and noise pollution, traffic congestion, traffic accidents, amongst others. So what bothers us the most is the traffic congestion. A lot of cars, too many cars are there on our streets. In addition to those negative externalities, if we want to achieve the targets of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and achieve a climate neutral EU by 2050, our behavior and habits in everyday travel should also change. It is really a thing to congrats to you that you are mostly walking today. So according also to the EU Sustainable and Smart Mobility Strategy, there should be a 90% reduction in transport emissions achieved. All transport modes should become more sustainable and available, and mobility services should be connected and cooperative. Also, digitalized, affordable, accessible are the objectives related to the mobility in EU in 2050. Some of the ways to support this idea are more space for pedestrian and cyclists, making buses and trains more attractive, supporting intelligent interconnection of transport systems, as well as implementing measures for more environmental protection and safety, like introducing a speed limit of 30 kilometers per hour, perhaps. Well, about more concrete examples of these ideas, you will hear later about. We need to be really aware that changing our habits is the key to sustainable mobility. And on what level? As individuals, as families, organizations, or society as a whole, with the support of experts and public authorities, of course. Good transport and special solutions aimed at people, not cars, which includes the reliability and comfort of public transport, and adequate pedestrian and cycling infrastructures, as we saw on the slide before, will encourage people to think about other modes of transport instead of their own car. I think we all agree on that. Long-term travel behavior change is exactly the right flow of information, as you can see on the picture on the right, skills and activities, infrastructures, incentives, and monitoring in the end of the process. So this webinar will deal with already implemented mobility measures that have affected people's behavior as well as places. Also, we will discuss how this knowledge can support more intensive implementation of other measures in future. And as I mentioned before, some of best practices is expected to be seen in this webinar. So after the presentations of our speakers today, a short discussion will follow. And you are very welcome to ask questions during the discussion, or you can then post your questions in the chat and I will read them afterwards. So now we will hear about the best practices of behavioral change. And our first speaker is Nina Mia Čikaš.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Nina.
Hi.
And I have a plan to introduce you to the participants. So,
okay. So I don't need to do it by myself.
No.
Oh, thank you.
Nina is an expert advisor in the city office for economy, environmental sustainability, and strategic planning of the city of Zagreb. Nina is an architect who specializes in preparation and implementation of EU projects. And during her 10 years experience, she was dealing with topics important for local self-government, with special concern on environmental sustainability, urban mobility, nature-based solutions in urban areas, and reducing the negative impact of climate change on cities. Her presentation is about the role of street art in mobility, which is better shown in 2 examples that you will hear about. So listen carefully. And Nina, the floor is yours. Please share your presentation.
Thank you so much for this lovely intro. So hello everyone, I'm Nina. As Magdalena introduced me really well, I couldn't do it better by myself. So let's start immediately. So I can show you shortly what is the role of street art in mobility, extending pedestrian zones in Zagreb. Art is an evolutionary act. The shape of art and its role in society is constantly changing. At no point is art static. There are no rules. That said Raymond Salvatore Harmon in his book, A Manifesto of Art Terrorism. We will use this context of art. We will use this, how can I say, art in the other context today, because also nowadays people are rarely go to art exhibitions. So this is also the way the art comes to them. Pedestrian zone in context of Europe, I will just go a little bit wider from the city of Zagreb, because it's important for the context of the city of Zagreb. Pedestrian zones have appeared in European cities in recent years, and the arrangement of pedestrian zones was motivated by the idea of humanizing the central part of the city to make this pleasant space for staying in the city center. I had a lot of really good examples, which you probably know if somebody is more interested in the research that we've done before about the pedestrian zones in the context of Europe. They can definitely email me so I can send some information extras, because this is the space of the pedestrian zone is organized by connecting shopping streets in most of the cities, which is also important in the context of the city of Zagreb. Thus the appearance of the pedestrian zones are primarily related to the function of the retail trade, which is also interested in the context of my city of Zagreb. These are some topics connected to among the old, let's say, a lot of European cities. Especially, I think the really good example is also in Ljubljana. But the starting point in the context of the city of Zagreb, we start to develop and expand our pedestrian zones long time ago. I will give you a few examples from 20 years ago, but the process is super slow, and this is quite a problem. But of course, this is not only the problem in the city of Zagreb; it's a problem among the other, also Croatian cities and European cities. But we do have this special development strategy of the Republic of Croatia, or this draft final proposal, the development of strategy of the city of Zagreb, Zagreb Plan, and strategy of cultural and creative development of the city of Zagreb, which are the documents that push us further and faster to get the more pedestrian zones in the city of Zagreb, especially in the city center, which I will concentrate today in this presentation. So this is the city center pedestrian zones. This is really the heart of the Zagreb, let's say. And here you can see that there is a lot of space to develop more, to extend these pedestrian zones more wider. This is the main square of the city of Zagreb, the square of Ban Jelačić, 30 years ago, which was usually used as a parking plot for cars, and you can see it's not only pedestrian zone. And this is how it looks today. This is how we started, let's say, this pedestrian zone movement. And easily we develop it more on the east part of the main square, which is called Old Vlaška Street. But now this is a European square, which is completely a pedestrian zone. And now let's start with some things that we wanted to develop during the European Mobility Week 2018. Traffic regulation from the existing traffic calming zone was, how can I say, the mentioned location for the purpose of permanent implementation of the same measures. During the implementation of the shared space measures, research was carried out at the location, and all the relevant stakeholders were involved. The thing is that we wanted to expand these pedestrian zone during the European Mobility Week, and we wanted to have like a long area which included Masarykova Street, Preradovića Street, Berislavićeva, and the goal was to expand the pedestrian zone, which I said minutes before, reduce the pressure of the individual traffic, increase the economic activities, reducing CO2 emissions and energy consumption in traffic, and improving the quality of life. So we had a lot of, let's say, barriers to complete this project, as we were thinking that it could be presented in the end of the European Mobility Weeks. Also, if somebody is interested in a service that we took during the preparation of the project, they can also text me or email me, so I can help with more information. This was like really huge area. So here you can see. In the end, unfortunately, we got only one spot to implement these regulations, and that was the spot where is the circle. The plan was to have activities for 2 weeks during all around these streets, and completely close it for car traffic. But in the end, we got this spot, and the concept was to paint the street, which was completely like a normal traffic street, really useful in the city center. And we made like a stage for the concert. We asked, let's say, musicians from Academy of Music, and we had concerts of cellos, 2 cellos, but not the one that they are the most famous. But these were even better. Also, we got 2 guitars, and in the end, so this is the artist, and he was doing the street like asphalt art, but it was like really interesting that he made it, you know, in I think 5 hours, because we were in a rush. It was raining, you know, everything went wrong, but in the end the outcome was really good. So this was from the above. And then in the end, we put like piano, and we had this really nice concert. This is also connected to another initiative that City of Zagreb is a part of. This is Asphalt Art Initiative in the organization of Bloomberg Associates. So they had this, let's say, competition, which was the deadline was July 2022. We applied, and we were one of the 19 cities that got the opportunity to present this artwork in the context of Asphalt Art Initiative, but how can I say, to improve our street safety and revitalize public space. We got $25,000 to make this kind of intervention in the city of Zagreb, and now I will show you some examples, which is really something that we've done already 2018. So we are really proud of that. And the thing is that we applied with some project, but in the end we decided to go with Martićeva Street. The project is we just had like kickoff a week ago, so we are on the beginning, but during next year the project will be finished. So I will definitely, we would definitely love to make another presentation, or to see how was the progress of the revitalization of this street, because this street is one of the sites this is like a famous street of art and design, and the plan is to make a new pedestrian zone in this area. So we will hope that it will expand even further than Martićeva. And now I will show you how is this connected with our first place, with our first mural, Asphalt Art, and this is the new one on the right side. So these are like small steps, but we are trying to foster it. So yeah, hopefully next year, I will have more materials to show you, and to show you the improvement of the revitalization in the city of Zagreb. Thank you very much. And if you have any kind of question for this kind of thematic, please feel free to send me an email or contact me.
Thank you, Nina, for a lovely presentation and a nice example of how art and community engagement can improve street safety, and in the end revitalize public space and bring happiness to all the relevant stakeholders on the street. So our next speaker knows that the messages are as powerful as infrastructure. Fred Dota is Senior Project Manager at Mobiel 21, with an additional role within the organization as Director of European Projects and Policies. Over the past 17 years, he has been involved in over 30 European projects, innovation and research projects spanning all sustainable urban mobility topics and themes, from mobility policy and management to behavioral change. As Fred's European experience and expertise covers a lot of ground, he acts as a registered expert for the European Commission and currently coordinates CIVITAS Elevate, which functions as the coordination and support action for the overarching CIVITAS initiative. Within the presentation, he will bring us some best practices from all over Europe with a focus on CIVITAS cities. You will hear about CIVITAS in his presentation as well. Dear Fred, please share a presentation with us.
Thank you very much, Magdalena. Dobro jutro, dobar dan. Well, it's already 11:30. Thanks a lot for the invitation and for the introduction. Yes, I've been involved in a lot of projects, but first and foremost, I'm also a citizen of a city, which you might know. It's Graz in Austria. And you will also see an example of this city afterwards. But my presentation is, of course, focusing on behavior change, on awareness raising in the context of urban mobility, and also to emphasize again that messages are as powerful as infrastructure. But first, let's start with a quiz, and I think that's also a quite good opportunity and chance to test the Zoom facilities in raising your hand, because I have something to ask. There is a quote which is, some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is a disaster. It was said by this gentleman. Who do you think, well, do you know who this gentleman is? You can raise your hand. Yes, you're right. It's Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the founder and the CEO of SpaceX, of Tesla. Recently, he also became the owner of Twitter, and he's the wealthiest person in the world. The second quote is, people who are right most of the time are people who change their minds often. This was said by this gentleman. Who of you know him? Raise your hand. Well, he's quite often in the media as well. So yes, his name is Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, a commercial astronaut, and the fourth wealthiest person in the world. And I have a last quote for you, which is, all creative people want to do the unexpected. Please raise your hand if you know this lady. I'm quite surprised that some of you do know this lady. Her name is Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr, she was born in 1900. She was born in Austria, and she was a very famous Hollywood movie star in the 40s, 30s and 40s. But she was also an inventor. She invented a traffic stop light, and she also invented, at the beginning of the Second World War, for the United States, a radio guidance system for Allied torpedoes. And her ideas and her invention were used as principles also to be incorporated in GPS, in Bluetooth, in Wi-Fi. So what do I want to say with that is that very often the success of the ones and the change as well very often depend also on others that are not that loud, on others that are not that wealthy, on others that cannot fly to the moon without, just paying it from their pocket money. And very often it is important to just go back a little bit in time, to go back to see how things started, because we all know also this quote that Rome wasn't built in a day. And we also know that, for example, Amsterdam didn't become a cycling city just overnight. No, it's also to go back and to consider how things started. And very often things are just starting with some theories. And you might have heard about this theory from resistance to embracing, so the 4 stages of acceptance. And those of us, there are some of you who are working in local governments, and I do exclude you from this, but those from us who are also working with local authorities or with the industry, we all know about those 4 stages. It starts very often when we come up with a good idea with resistance, saying basically, this is absolute worthless nonsense. But we keep on working, we keep on trying to talk, we keep on involving them, but still there is a certain resignation and saying, well, it's interesting, but sorry to say that, it's a perverse point of view. But still, we keep on working because we are idealists as well. And slowly we're coming to the stage of acceptance, saying, well, yeah, well, it's true, but still, It's quite unimportant, but finally we are coming to a stage which is called embracing or also buy-in, where then the people suddenly said, wow, you're right, I always said so. That's why it's also important not only to keep on talking to people and with people, but it's also always important to combine certain ideas. And especially when it comes to behavior change, awareness raising in urban mobility, yeah, it's not only about infrastructure. Yes, we can build bicycle lanes, but we also need to talk about it. We need to bring it closer to the people, to the citizens, but also to the decision makers. That's why it's so important to combine the so-called hard measures like infrastructure also with more soft measures like information campaigns or educational efforts. One way to do so can be done, for example, through social marketing. And here, very often, we are also trying to adapt really pure commercial marketing technologies to influence the voluntary behavior of people, especially to improve their personal welfare, their personal well-being. But of course, it's also clear that the challenge very often lies in showing the individual that such measures do have an immediate influence on their daily lives, but we have to take them into account also to promote the future perspective. And to come to this point when we are talking with citizens and trying to change their behavior or to raise awareness, we also, well, have to take into account some key features, which we sometimes forget, but at the end, yes, as I said, we have to take them into account. It's about behavior, first of all. And when we want to do is to change the people's actual behavior. It's important to focus on the audience. So as I wrote here, it's the customer orientation. So it's not just anyone, but at the end, it's a citizen we are talking to. Also, when we're talking to politicians or to representatives from the industry, we're still talking to people. We have to use, or we can use, various theories to understand behavior and also to inform the activity. So it's not just saying, well, this is good and this is bad, but it's also balancing the different theories and also trying to understand the other one. To understand the other one, it's also to share insights and also to orient on those insights and to come up with actionable insights. We have to, and this is also related to what I've just said, we also have to consider both the benefits and the costs of adopting and maintaining a new behavior. What is very important is what I put here as a headline, the competition. So we have to understand what competes for our customer, for the citizen, for the stakeholders, attention and inclination to behave in a particular way. We also know that this one-size-fits-all approach is not working. So it's also, again, linked to the customer orientation. So we really have to provide and think about target group specific actions and measures. And last but not least, coming back to what I've said in a previous slide, it's the mix of different methods. It's the combination of different approaches and not just relying on raising awareness. It is important, but it's not the only one. We have to find a good mix and a good combination of various methods. This is also important to stimulate involvement, especially to improve the quality and the acceptance. And when we talk about participation, about co-creation, even about citizen science, this helps to better understand the process of planning when it comes to sustainable urban mobility And it also provides an opportunity to the citizen to participate and to influence certain decisions. And this also obliges the more official transport and urban planners from a local authority to explain more complex issues so that the everyday citizen also understands it. And also for the local authorities in this way, it is absolutely important to get feedback at an early stage. Because as soon as you realize, okay, this is working, this is not working, you can always change the plans. Once something is built, it's very difficult to change this again. We have also to consider to engage the citizens of today to build the sustainable cities of tomorrow. As a conclusion, we can say it's important to reach out to a wider audience and to involve new target groups also in the mobility planning process. It is important to enhance and to foster the communication between the city administration and the citizens, because this will help the citizens also to accept certain measures. It's important to gather feedback and also public opinions on the development and the implementation of certain mobility measures. And it's also important to offer a good way for the citizens to access mobility information. And last but not least, also to combine and integrate and link several tools and methods. So this is just a repetition of what I just said before. This is the theory. And with CIVITAS, we're trying to turn this theory or theories also into practice. Just a very brief explanation, what is CIVITAS? CIVITAS was established in 2002, so exactly 20 years ago, and it's one of the flagship programs of the European Union, and it helps the European Union, the European Commission, to achieve their sustainable mobility and transport goals. And there are 4 key points that are important to be considered within CIVITAS. First of all, it is important in CIVITAS that we see mobility as a part of wider sustainable development goals. It is a network of cities and for cities. CIVITAS is working in living lab projects, but also in research projects, and it also helps or supports the fostering of political commitment to sustainable mobility. CIVITAS is not just a hybrid thing, it's a community. We have currently more than 350 local authorities being member of CIVITAS who declare and commit themselves to introduce sustainable urban mobility policies. A very important part of the CIVITAS community are the CIVITAS national networks, the so-called CIVINET, like the CIVINET Slovenia, Croatia, Southeast Europe. And those CIVINETs, currently there are 10, they act as CIVITAS ambassadors at the local level. And they translate, not only language-wise, but also contextual-wise, the CIVITAS philosophy and the CIVITAS approach to the local, national, regional level. We also have another group, which is called the Policy Advisory Committee, which is composed of elected officials, so vice mayors, deputy mayors, councillors, mayors, who act as an advisory board to CIVITAS, but also provide the link between CIVITAS and the CIVITAS cities to the European Commission, who is also part of the CIVITAS community, not only because the European Commission is financing CIVITAS, but of course it's also always important to really link the local circumstances also with the regional, the national, and even the European level. In CIVITAS, by now, there are more than 900 mobility measures that have been implemented across those 10 thematic areas, which you can see here on the slide. And they roughly reach more than 50 million people in whole Europe. And today, we're focusing on the behavior change and the mobility management with the tagline influencing and changing attitudes and travel behavior through so-called soft measures. And coming from the theory to the practice, we also know that in theory, there is no difference between theory and practice, but in practice, there is. And one of those thematic clusters, which is called behavior change and mobility management, we are working on more than 300 measures. And as I said before, it's not only focusing on one particular thing, but it's always the combination. So no one wants to build a bicycle lane without promoting it. And there are 22 projects in CIVITAS who are doing that. And you can find more information, of course, on all those 300 measures on the CIVITAS website. And in the following, I just would like to show you a few best practice examples, and I know that my time is slowly running out, so I will go quickly through. The first example is coming from my city, from Graz in Austria, and they used innovative marketing using reverse psychology and also working a little bit with myths and also with a twink in the eye. For example, we all hear that if cars are banned from the city center, all shops are going to die. If we're going to implement a shared space in the city, well, no one behaves like this, and there will only be clowns and crazy people around. We also know that cycling in the city is far too dangerous, especially when it comes to infrastructure. And most of all, it is super important that the green wave helps to reduce congestion. So with this campaign, which was really successful in the city, provided the twink, but also focused on serious issues and helped the citizens to think a little bit different. Another example is coming from Aachen, Germany, where they're using e-participation in the SUMP process. So not only by public involvement through marquee in a pedestrian zone, but also using participation 2.0 methods for those who are not able to join on-site in this process. In Brünn in Czechia, they introduced a mobility dialogue, so also to take into account new ways of communication and different approaches towards customers. In Koprivnica, in Croatia, they developed a curriculum in clean urban mobility, and this also encouraged cross-border cooperation in the region, and also provided a sound basis for the development of SUMPs in cities in this region. The Mobilna Gdynia platform from Gdynia in Poland helped not only to do these traditional interviews, but also using online platforms. And this very often also helps to increase the willingness of people to take part in service. In Odense in Denmark, they also created alternative options for owners of old cars. So they used campaigns, marketings and campaign strategies, especially to remove older cars from the roads. In Funchal in Portugal, they made a big campaign, awareness raising campaign for sustainable mobility, using conferences, video competitions. They made a city treasure hunt. They also involved the whole public transport, really to get all the people involved and being part of sustainable mobility in the city. I know I'm coming to the end, and I have to come to the end, so I just want to provide some conclusions, if I may. We know changing the individual behavior is really difficult, and soon there will be the new year, and some of us, we want to make some New Year's resolution. maybe to lose weight or stop smoking or to cycle more, but this is really, really difficult. The other problem is that very often we are using punishment and enforcement also to encourage the change of travel behavior. But we also know that when being rewarded and also being involved in decision-making processes, people are much more motivated and also do accept certain measures. And of course, also there is this consensus that the best interventions are those that seek to change minds alongside changing contexts. And finally, yes, we have to take into account KPIs. We know KPIs as the key performance indicators, but this is not always the most important thing. No. We have to keep the people interested. We have to keep the people informed. We have to keep the people involved and also to keep the people inspired when we talk about behavior change, when we talk about raising awareness. Or, as Jane Jacob said, the author of the book, The Death and Life of Great American Cities, cities have the capability of providing something for everybody only because and only when they are created by everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred, for this great overview of a process as a whole, a process of changing our behavior and mobility, because as you said, with a great example of Amsterdam, changes doesn't come overnight. So that is a process that has its duration. And from the Europe-wide, we will now focus on neighborhood-wide example of impacts of SUMP measure in Ljutomer in Slovenia, which will present Mrs. Mojca Balant from Urban Planning Institute of the Republic of Slovenia. Mojca is a landscape architect with 15 years experience in transport planning, landscape architecture and urban design with a special focus in recent years on sustainable mobility. Since 2011, she is a member of a mobility group at the Urban Planning Institute in Slovenia, working on national and European projects focused on mobility management, SUMP's integration of spatial and transport planning, active mobility, and similar topics. We will hear now how the creation of people-friendly travel zone resulted in notable behavioral change in Ljutomer. So, Mojca, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this introduction. Oh, I'm reminded that my internet connection is unstable, so I hope everything will go well. And I'll start sharing the presentation, and please note some questions if you have for me for later. Okay. So Ljutomer. It's a small town in Slovenia, around 3,000 participants. And we are actually working a lot in Ljutomer in recent years, since 2012, when we prepared the first SUMP there. And the measure I will present today is one of the measures from that plan. And that's also the reason why I put this picture up, because Ljutomer is, we call it a laboratory because we make so many interesting things there. So this people-friendly travel zone, as we called it, is a combination of traffic calming approaches that are similar to home zones, to super blocks, to Woonerven in the Netherlands, a little bit to shared space as well. So it combines different approaches, but in a little bit different manner. So we try to find another name for it to use it in Slovenia and maybe now even broader. You can see here in the bottom an insert from the action plan, part of the walking. So the strategy on walking, of course, the SUMP had also other pillars to focus on, but this specific measure was part of the walking pillar. How it all began, The measure was selected as a comprehensive measure, not only to implement one sidewalk or one path or one crossing, but to consider a whole area. And we also adopted the SUMP approach and tried to test it on a micro scale. Because as you might know, the SUMP approach was first developed for sort of larger cities, then it was tested in regions and in smaller cities. But we asked ourselves, okay, if it's so well working elsewhere, why can't we try it also on a very small scale? And we actually started our process of renovating the neighborhood with setting and with adopting vision and goals from the SUMP and transformed it to this micro scale. To give you an idea of the measure, in a yellow bracket, you can see the neighborhood where we implemented the renovation. With the brown dot, it's marked the center of Ljutomer. It's about 1 kilometer apart, so not so far theoretically, but practically further away because the road leading to the center was not renovated within our plan. So there's still much to do in future years. And the neighborhood forms about 1/10 of the town's population. On the bottom right, you can see the structure of the neighborhood. It has one longer transit road. In solid line, you can see that one. In dashed line are access streets that are more or less also dead ends. And in dotted lines, you can see segregated footpaths that were, some of them were already there before the renovation, but were not in such a great condition. For the overview, what was done, before we came there, the neighborhood had asphalt tarmac roads throughout the place with no sidewalks or other measures that would show that also people walk or cycle there. It was mainly focused on cars. And afterwards, there were quite a few interventions implemented, and they were distributed throughout the neighborhood, also considering the type of the street. A short overview, there were 12 types of interventions. Some were also implemented in combination, especially the greening part. So the planting was, we tried to introduce planting.
Sorry, Mojca, we can hear you now. You are...
And there were different walking and parking and traffic calming measures.
Sorry, well. Mojca, you were frozen for a while.
Haha, great. Yeah.
So
so where? Where should I continue with the explanation of the interventions or even before?
Yes, interventions.
Okay, yeah. So 12 types of interventions were introduced, a lot of them also in combination, especially the planting ones, because we wanted to really improve the greenery in the neighborhood, despite that it was already quite green because there are semi-detached houses there, but still the streets didn't have this open public space so emphasized before. You can see the list on the slide, so I won't go into detail there. And now, with the introduction, I'd like to focus on results. There was quite a long process of it. We did the before analysis, then we did the planning process. We went through the whole SUMP cycle. So we sort of adapted it to a micro scale, but there was a lot of involvement with the people going on. And in 2016, we managed to do the implementation, and we did everything you saw on the pictures on the previous slide. And then afterwards, we had 6 years of monitoring and evaluation. So this is really a unique example, I could say, in Slovenia. And as we see also, there are not so many so thorough examples abroad as well. What were our main conclusions? What did we find out? Did anything change or not? Yes, it did, and I'm happy to report that. So regarding travel habits and the atmosphere and traffic flows and everything, we did a comprehensive survey, and we counted also the traffic and the speeds, and were on the ground for 6 years, as I told before. So regarding walking, we saw a positive response from about a good third of people 1 year after the renovation, and from even more people 6 years after renovation. So the survey was repeated in 2017 and 2022. And actually in all other fields that we were monitoring with the residents, the results were very positive as well. So we managed to achieve more than 1/3 change in behavior. And since we did the survey again 6 years after, we can quite confidently say that it's probably for a longer period than just for, you know, a response after 1 year of renovation, and then you would maybe turn back to the habit you had for previous 30 years. In the households, we were also checking about the different age groups. So we would ask in every household whether they have also children and elderly. And also the responses there are very positive. We are happy to know that children walk the more often after the renovation, being the, you know, young generation and leading things forward in the future years. And also we were happy to know that the percentages improved throughout the years, so that people, you know, remain walking and cycling more and having these good habits. Regarding car traffic, we saw a lot of decrease in the area of driving speeds. In the dark blue, you can see the status before the renovation. And in the violet nuances, you can see the after measurements. Of course, the change was biggest 1 year after the renovation because it was something new, but still it didn't change back to the levels before. We saw overall 10 km/h speed decrease. And now there are 17% of cars drive below 30 km/h. So this is a really a great outcome, even though some of the streets have a, you know, driving speed limit of 10 km/h, but we all know that this is really hard to achieve in different places. And also another great result was that only 5% of cars now drive faster than 40 km/h, and that numbers was before 1/3 of the cars. So a really big change in the speeds as well. Can you still hear me, or was I thrown out again?
No, we can still hear you.
Okay, great, because I'm getting notices all over the board here. Then also about the size of the traffic flow, so how many cars are in the neighborhood now. You saw before that there's one sort of transit street and others are access streets. And on the access streets, we practically didn't notice any difference. So there are people who live there, they come to their house, they go to the city or wherever they need to go. But on the transit streets, we saw a 30% decrease. This is a great result because the street going through the neighborhood, it's actually a parallel to the main street through the town itself. So a lot of people would use it as an alternative when there was more traffic on the main road, and they would just go over the hill and through this neighborhood. Well, now we managed to divert 30% of the neighborhood's traffic before the redesign. So if we count all cars in the neighborhood in a day, there are now 644 less cars. You have to know that these were 4 counting points, so some cars would be the same, but still it's quite a significant number. And regarding traffic flows in more technical manner, we can see a quite an visible decrease in peak cars. So in the peak hours in the neighborhood, there is now only 1/3 of traffic. So across the board, we can see really this decrease in motorized traffic that we were hoping to achieve with the redesign and all the involvement activities. Then we did another survey searching for the perceived conditions for walking and cycling. So we would go into the neighborhood and into the town of Ljutomer and ask people how they feel about walking and cycling in both locations. And also here, the neighborhood performed for, in average, on a scale from 1 to 6, for a 0.5 to 1 grade better than the town itself. And all the almost all the ratings were above 4. So in the green and yellow zone was the neighborhood, and the town was red to yellow zone. A really nice result. And you can see the overall average ratings on far left. So overall perception, if infrastructure aspects and road safety aspects, they were all above 5 for walking and almost 4.5 for cycling. And you can also see from this graph that walking is much more appreciated than cycling. Maybe because walking improvements were better, or maybe there were more interventions that the people liked. We saw that also from the analysis of interventions that would support active mobility. We were asking people what they think about them, and sidewalk and segregated pathways really came up on the top. Then new areas for socializing and play and new plantings and these speed limiting interventions were also quite important. And I would like to note here that cycling was not improved by cycle lanes or any other markings on the road, because the speed is now so low that cyclists can actually go everywhere, and cars should wait for them, and this is being implemented as well. There was also one measure that did not perform well overall, and it was a mini roundabout, which is, on the other hand, a very often used technical measure. And we saw that the technical measures were not so well accepted, but the ones that would improve open space were really, really well accepted. So in future rearrangements, we would really like to support this and communicate this finding that it's really important. I mean, we know this as landscape architects and as our practice, but in the technical world of traffic planning and traffic engineers, it's not so well known, and there's not so much focus on open space yet. To make some final conclusions, we noticed, of course, as you saw, a significant behavior change. There was a lot more active travel use and a lot less car use. So the potential for permanent behavior change, we think it's rather big. We can also justify this more complex approach to renovation of the neighborhood and of wider areas with these results, because we saw a lot of very good impacts. And also the measures were well accepted, and the perceptions was very good. And on the other hand, on the more methodological side, we would like now to support this use of using the SUMP methodology on a micro scale and develop it further for further use. And we really saw that it consolidated the SUMP framework as well. So it supported the strategic part of the transport planning in Ljutomer through bottom-up approach, so to say. That would be all the information and data from my side, and for the questions we are I think we have a later a time slot later on to do that. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mojca, for the great overview of changes in Ljutomer. And it's great to know that these changes adopted got permanent. So it's not only the temporary thing, and the research itself proves the permanent that the changes is are long term.
Maybe just one more comment. Yeah, we were a little bit, you know, scared to do the surveys and the measurements again after 6 years, but then it, the results were great. So we are happy that we did it, that we gathered the courage.
Yeah,
thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Mojca. And as we're talking about these microscale measures, the next example is of Rudarska Street in Velenje, Slovenia also. Our last presenter is Nela Halilović, project manager at Institute for Spatial Policies in Ljubljana, which is an advocacy, consulting and research organization in the field of sustainable, spatial and urban development. In the institute focusing on 4 fields of action: public participation, sustainable mobility, placemaking and urban policy. Their actions are grounded on the values of equality, sustainability, cooperation, quality of life and vitality. Nela is a sustainable mobility expert who works mainly in creating and implementing campaigns for more walking and cycling with focus on changing mobility habits on short distances. A very important topic nowadays, I would say. So one such example and inspirational story is from Rudarska Street. So without further ado, I will turn the meeting over to Nela. Please share your presentation with us.
Thank you. I just have to start sharing. Okay. Now you can probably see my presentation, right? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, but not the slideshow.
Okay. Okay, so thank you, Magdalena. My name is Nela Halilović. I'm a geographer, and as Magdalena introduced me, I am working as a project manager at IPOP Institute for Spatial Policies in Ljubljana, Slovenia. I'm delighted to be here today and would like to thank the organizers for the invitation to this webinar. Today I will talk about temporary transport measures I'm working on in Slovenia, mostly known as Open Street and School Street campaigns. And before we dive into the topic, just a brief introduction of Institute where I come from. Magdalena already introduced us, actually. I just want to say that with our activities, we are trying to support communities towards sustainable urban development. So all of our actions are really grounded on bottom-up approach with a lot of participation activities and communication. Cases, or one case in details I will talk about is part of the big 8 years long project called Life IP Care for Climate. And we are one of the 15 partners in this project. And our main goal in this project is to develop and conduct 6 national campaigns for changing travel habits, for promoting walking and cycling on short distances. And one of these campaigns is...
Sorry, Nela, to interrupt, but we cannot see your slideshow, so you can end your slideshow and just move towards your presentations.
I will stop sharing and try again, okay?
Okay, you may.
Can you see it now?
Oh, yes, now it's fine.
And you see the slideshow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, great. So yeah, one of these 6 national campaigns as part of LIPE Care for Climate project is Open Street. We already did in 3 Slovenian municipalities since 2020, and also School Street campaign, which we did in 2 Slovenian municipalities until today. And I'm sure most of you already heard about open street campaigns from abroad. Just a few facts. It is somehow a street lab to see what happens in public space if we restrict on some road or on some square motorized vehicles. So the idea is to close the street for cars and open it for people, for cyclists, for pedestrians. And it can be a really good test before big infrastructure changes, which are usually expensive and stressful, as well for planners, for municipal officials, and of course for users who has to change their mobility habits. So with this temporary measures, they can feel how the new regulation will work for them. And on the other side, we as planners, we can get the overview of what is good in practice for users, so we can actually implement later on in changes or in plans for changes these results from temporary measures. And with School Street campaign, it's pretty much the same. Just the goal is a bit different, as we put children's safety around the school on the first place. That's why we restrict car traffic in school surrounding, at least in peak hours, in the morning, for example, or for a whole period before afternoon. And actually the same as with Open or School Street, when we do it just for temporary, it reduces risk of backlash of in school street campaign of parents, for example, or for and residents and others, other city users, as they get the chance to try a new regulation first before major changes. And now this one case of Open Street we did this year in May for 2 weeks. We did it on Rudarska street in Velenje, Slovenia. I don't know how many of you already heard about Velenje. It is located in northeastern part of Slovenia, and it's 6th biggest by the number of inhabitants. It is well known by its industry and mining tradition, and I'm telling you that because the name of street, Rudarska street, means actually mining street. So I want to stress how important this street is. It has a symbol meaning for town, and also it's located in city center. But still, it's really car-friendly street. So the whole town is really small with the most flat terrain, and from center to the to any part of the town, you can get by moderate walk in, I don't know, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, and you can get the idea how much time you need if you use the bike. But still, on the other side, the modal split shares are not that encouraging, as 60% of inhabitants of Velenje are still using cars for really short distances in everyday life. And that's also important fact because Velenje is in Slovenia known quite as I wrote a sustainable mobility champion. It's known as really good example as a municipality because they already adopted a lot of different sustainable mobility measures in over a decade or 15 years, but still the mobility habits of inhabitants are quite still car oriented. So I wanted to show you a video of this campaign, but I will do it at the end if we will still have time for it. So this is this Rudarska street. On first picture, you can see it in normal conditions. And on second, you can see how it looked during open street. And as I already mentioned, it is really a car-friendly street, even though it's important. Currently, you can see on the picture with the pink color, the amount of space that is dedicated to cars on Rudarska street. So there is a lot of space for cars. And with orange color, you can see the amount of space that is dedicated to pedestrians. And no, it's not a mistake. There is no any space for cyclists. Part of the open street is also measuring different things to set the data ground base and to see how did the temporary street regulation affected the data. And also the data actually showed how generosity of space dedicated to cars can result in the amount of cars on the street. So in some peak times, there is more than 600 cars. This is 2 times per day. It's crazy, a lot of cars for some really important city center street. And as I mentioned, we are talking about sustainable mobility. Good example municipality, so they understand the infrastructure has to be renovated soon, but they also understand that importance of street for car drivers will result in backlash if they just restrict cars on this street. So that's why they decided to try some measures first with open street campaign, and they will probably do it again in next years. And how did this street look like for 2 weeks when it was a bit friendlier for people? We created a shared space, and we reduced a speed limit. We added a cycling lane. We eliminated 53 parking spaces on the street. And for those who are used to park on the street, we for 2 weeks they had free parking in garage, which is like a minute or 2 minutes away. So we really wanted to make not stressful this temporary change for people there. We added a bus stop for city bus. We added 3 kiss and ride for pupils and their parents. We extended the walking area, bar terrace areas, sitting areas. We simulated somehow the green areas on the street. And also we added a children play area. And for 2 days, we also tried closing a street for transit traffic. So total closure with exemption of public transport. So we could see how much of transit is on the street for real. And last but not least, we organized a different program to attract people to the street to try a new regulation. And so we could get to talk with these different users to inform them about the plans and what are we doing, and also to talk about their opinion about the new regulation. Temporary measures showed in as a reduction of vehicles in peak hours by 21% in 2 weeks. And in the 2-day total closure, a 60% reduction of transit traffic. So more than 60% of vehicles use the road as a shortcut to the rest of the city, even though there are other roads they could use. But this Rudarska street is really wide, and it's really nice to use with a car. So it's nothing strange. And also the average speed of cars reduced for 4 kilometers per hour. but the maximum speed increased for almost 10 kilometers per hour, which goes to this optical widening of street, because there was less of traffic, and they could car drivers could go faster, which was actually on our account. We should put some things also on the road to narrow the street. And for parking, there was only a 3% difference in parked cars of residents, and we can conclude some of them tried different means of transport, which is good for changing mobility habits, because usually people, they don't want to try new things until they are forced to. And when they try it, they can already feel some good effects of trying new mode of transport. So we hope that few of those residents also extended their usage of walking or cycling also after our experiment. And the biggest disappointment in parking was 0% change in employees' parked cars. They didn't want to use free garage and walk for a few minutes. They rather search for other parking in the area and pay for it. And also occupancy in the garage with free parking did not change significantly, which is quite crazy. We were talking a lot with people on the street about why they don't want to use a garage, and they were telling us all kinds of stories like, yeah, it's there is a lot of vandalism, it's not safe, I don't know how to use it. So you can get a lot of information for further planning with this kind of experiments. And big part of open street campaigns is a lot of communication activities. I think we communicated really a lot through different channels, because we wanted to get as many different age groups and users to inform them why we are doing this, and also to get them to the street. That's the main part, actually, to get the people to the street so they can try a new temporary regulation and to give you their opinion. And communication is a good ground for participation activities, which we already also did a lot of it. Firstly, we had a stand on a street like for all 14 days. We talked to more than 400 people. We did an online survey. We did film viewing and a discussion, workshop with residents, urban walk, interviews with young people, urban walks with pupils from primary schools, from surrounding. We did a street public hearing, and also we were following informal channels where people tried to participate in this experiment, like some forums and social media. And you could see the difference, like two different worlds between what we were hearing on a street when we were talking with pedestrians, mostly, and cyclists, and young people who use this street, who are not using the street with a car. They were really thrilled about all the measures, and they gave us a lot of insights of how they feel about the measures, etc. And on the other hand, this informal part on the internet was mostly used by car drivers. So you can get the idea what were the responses on the internet on these informal channels. So yeah. Then, based on all this data we measured and all the activities we conducted, we evaluated each part of temporary regulation and prepared a proposal of measures for street renovation for municipality, which we presented to to the mayor and director of municipality and municipal officials. And based on that, we did a proposal of some measures. So we started with participation and communication, because even though they will do infrastructure change, as also my fellow presenters already said today, you have to communicate a lot, and you have to include people and users into their into the planning process. And as we got so many responses from people during these 14 days, we proposed to prepare a renovation plan together with them. We talked to so many people, and we gave them actually a promise to renovate this street to suit to all of them. Municipality really has to continue this process with them. And in case of traffic measures, we pointed out that renovation of Rudarska should not be only renovation, like infrastructure renovation, but also it has to include some measures some measures of urban regeneration. And the main goal should be, of course, restricting cars and making street friendlier to people by narrowing car surface and mixing the users. But they should also include and do some placemaking activities to get to the people the sense of importance of that road and this place. It's not really only a road for car drivers, as many of them were saying to us, like, yeah, this is only good for cars. No, it's not. There is a lot of pedestrians who needs, for example, new trees, and car drivers don't. And then we also, as part of restricting cars, we also proposed that they should renovate a parking policy of Velenje, and they should implement a lot of measures to raise the attractiveness of garage, to get more people in it. Just as fun fact, there is like 4 garages in the center of Velenje, and only in 2 of these garages you could fit all the cars in the city center. So actually, if garages are empty, and they have a lot of garages, but still they're really generous with parking places and prices and everything in center. So if they want to restrict cars and change mobility habits of people, they really have to start restrict parking in the city center. And some extra content for you for the end. I also talked to the leader from municipality, the leader of the project from municipality. We collaborated together on their opinion on this experience. How did they feel about it? This was actually something totally new for them, and you can guess it was quite stressful for them, but they still found out that broad participation process is really good, but also challenging, as people will fight just not to change anything, even if the changes are better for them. And they also learn for the first time about the influence of social networks and other unofficial media, which caused some sort of backlash to the project on the internet, of course. And by the latter, also to be clear in the goal you want to achieve and to continue to go into that direction, even though you have a feeling that you're doing something wrong if the people are really against you. And I can also stress this out from other example of open street we did in Postojna last year. Business owners were so angry at mayor that mayor at some point he said, yeah, we will cancel the open street campaign 1 day earlier. And like on the last day we had it on Friday, for example, it should be also on Saturday. People were getting to us and they said to us, yeah, actually, you don't know what you're doing. If we had to tell you that this is stupid idea and you cancel it. So it's really important just to stay on this path and with small steps to go to the set direction and to see that clear goal. And I also asked the municipality what are the next steps for them, like in short term, and they said they will start with preparing new parking policy, and they will add a new public transport bus stop, and they will make a permanent kiss and ride stops for pupils and their parents, and all of this based on Open Street campaign. And I don't know if you know, we just had in Slovenia municipal elections. So now it's really a good time to do these kind of things, to start changing parking policy, because then people have to have 4 years to adjust to the changes and to see the good effects of these changes. And this is all from me. Magdalena, I'm not sure if I still have time for 2 minutes of video just to show you what we did.
I know that the video is very, very interesting, so I think that our participants will also find it interesting, so you may show us.
Okay, thank you. Can you see the, okay, I think you can see it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we can. Thank you, Nela, for the video. I think it was very interesting. So it sums up great all the stuff you said about the changes in Rudarska Street, and thank you for the overview of this process, which was temporary, but there are. It's important that there is a political will to continue this process. So thanks to all the speakers for their lovely, interesting, and well-detailed presentations that gave us a great overview of changes in mobility, what this is all about. So I would like to ask our participants to if they have any questions, comments as well, or examples of their own, you are free to speak, just raise your hand, or if you have a question, or you can write in the chat as you like. So when we are waiting for the examples, the last presentation of Nela was on the micro scale. So I have some comments and some questions. So there, as I see from the presentation, even for Ljutomer and Velenje, there's even bigger potential for small cities to adopt sustainable urban mobility measures because of short distances that are really easy to walk or to cycle. So what was really the trickiest part of this temporary process in Rudarska street? What do you think, Nela? What's your experience on that topic?
The trickiest part of this temporary regulation is actually quite subjective to me, because I come from Velenje, and even though I'm working in Ljubljana, I had a lot of difficulties doing this in my hometown, where people know me, and also some of these bad internet commenting got to me personally. So yeah, this was the trickiest part for me like personally. But either way, I would say also to be, I mean, we as an institute, we did coordination and leading the whole process, but also in other towns, for example, we are usually kind of protective. We are protecting the municipal officials when some backlashes start, or when we have public hearing and people start to saying that this is stupid, or that usually in Slovenia, they say in smaller towns, like, yeah, we are not Ljubljana, like they did in Ljubljana, the whole pedestrian zone. We don't need this. We just need roads. Just leave us alone. We will go to Ljubljana to see these pedestrian zones. So it's quite complex to understand what is going on in their heads, actually. As you mentioned, they're really... it's really a small scale example, so people could really walk everywhere, but they're also more eager not to change their mobility habits if they're using cars. So it's tricky to see the social view of it and psychological view of it, and still to be there as someone, as an expert who has to just inform everyone that this is good for them, because yeah, we are changing their habits. It's just like, yeah, you should stop smoking, and we know how it goes. So yeah. These are all the trickiest parts for me.
Yeah, and that all happened in 2 weeks of the open street in Velenje.
It was quite intense.
Quite intense and dynamic, but yeah, the results are great at the end. I mean, as you said, the future of the Rudarska street will be urban regeneration. So yeah, that's quite positive stuff.
Yeah,
and for Ljutomer, there is the second SUMP on board. So my concerns was, or I would like to know more about the other measures, how they were combined and affected on the whole behavioral change in Ljutomer. Could you give us an example?
Yeah, actually the picture in the whole Ljutomer, it's not so bright as in this neighborhood, because they have one stream that follows the SUMP, even the new one. This kind of comprehensive traffic calming is expanding. There's another zone being implemented, or maybe it's already done, and another 3 planned. but there was also a very big roundabout planned on the main road through the city. So they are working on both streams, the traditional one and the SUMP one. So the cordon counts that we perform every year, they don't show so much difference in travel habits, unfortunately. Yeah, there's still a lot to be done on the scale of a whole town, even though they are small. I could say that in smaller towns, there is an average of 85% or 90% of cars in the modal split. It's way better in bigger towns because you can't get around so easily as in smaller ones.
Yeah.
So there are pros and cons. Yeah. If you have a local government who listens, it's easier to make changes, but on the other hand, there are also bigger obstacles in regards to travel behavior.
Yeah, that's a pity. I thought it was quite opposite. I mean,
not in the overall picture, unfortunately. Yeah, that's why we have to show these positive examples, and that things can be done on all scales, on different scales. And as Fred said, don't stop working. Just keep going, and gradually the changes will appear. Yeah, we have to believe that. Otherwise, we can go and work in other fields, I think. Yeah,
the consistency in working will be recognized, I hope, really. So you all experienced the theory that Fred said about the theory of stages of acceptance. I mean, we are still at the resistance and resignation, I think, in Velenje and Ljutomer here. And there's a lot of things to do to embracing it. So I have now a question for Nina from the city of Zagreb. How were the citizens involved in creating those mobility measures that also were permanent, were temporary during the European Mobility Week?
So, but I must say that we are coordinating a lot of projects which are concerning to urban revitalization, and we are working a lot of participation of the citizens in these projects. So I'm super familiar with everything which Nela and Mojca said, with pros and cons, with problems that they have. We also have it on this, let's say, bigger scale. Although these are, with different neighborhoods projects, but the problems are always like literally the same. But concerning to your question, we had the service with citizens. We are trying to find a way, is it possible to do the extensions of the pedestrian zone in this area? City of Zagreb have some problems, of course, which is concerning traffic mobility, because you can't make these extensions of the pedestrian zones in the north-south direction in the city center, because of the connection to the citizens which are living in the Medvednica, like southern Medvednica. But this area was really potential, and it's still basically this Masarykova, Teslina, and Zrinjevac, north part of the Zrinjevac, they are technically, pedestrian streets, but not like 100%. They could be easily developed as pedestrian streets. Now we will see what will happen in this Marticheva street, although we have also this design district concept, which maybe somebody, people who are from Zagreb probably know about it. But now we will see what will be the effect of this mural that will, and extension of the pedestrian zone in Marticheva street. The plan is to close it maybe for the traffic 100%, etc. But this is something that we could talk about next year, because we will also take surveys, we will interview citizens, we will do participation, some kind of develop participation process, like similar to the project that we are doing on different scales and in different areas. So yeah, I hope I answer your question.
Yes, thank you, Nina. There's a question for Fred. Could you advise us, maybe from your experience, what's the best, maybe chronological order of the measures to be done in order to achieve the wanted results? Or these all are parallel process and depends on the geographical context of the city?
Oh, Magdalena. I think it's a very important and interesting question, but it's as difficult to answer at the end. Some of you might have heard about SUMPs, Sustainable Urban Mobility Plans, and this famous or infamous circle to follow, which includes several elements. So it's all about, well, involvement, participation, but it's also about the planning and providing feedback and constant evaluation and so on. So I think it depends on the local circumstances as well. I do believe that no matter what method or approach you are going to follow, most important thing is to consider the local circumstances and to consider also the political environment, the own culture. You know, not every country has a different planning culture. Every little valley has its own different culture in planning and in involving its citizens or its people. So I do believe that there is not, we can't break it down to a chronological order or even into an order of importance, because everything is equally important. It's more important not to forget certain aspects, like involving the people. And as I presented, but also Mojca, Nela, and Nina, the more you involve, of course, the people and the citizens, and not only to involve them, but also to take them serious and to listen to them, and also to take into account what they are going to say, the higher are the chances that certain measures are going to be accepted, of course. There are always setbacks and failures. Well, just have to clean our trousers and stand up again. And as you said, Mojca, we have to keep on working, otherwise nothing is going to change. Of course, it also depends on the political will. If you're working in a city which is led by a mayor or councillors that are more on the Green Party side or more liberal, it's definitely easier maybe to also consider more human-centered measures. On the other hand, if you are living and working with or for a city that is more conservative or right-wing, well, we know how this is then. It's very often the complete opposite. I do have a very good example from my own city, from Graz, which was led for 19 years by a conservative mayor in coalition with the right wings. And I wouldn't say that nothing happened. Also some good things happened. But at the end, people were just fed up, because it was just about denying climate change. It was about building new streets. Here and there, yes, a few more bike lanes, but that's it. It's just good for the image and for the newspaper. And when we had the elections last year, the political system completely changed. Now our mayor, and Graz is the second biggest city in Austria, now the mayor is coming from the Communist Party in coalition with the Green Party. So it's a complete turnover. And even though they are now only in place since 12 months or a little bit less, already now more things happened than previously, because they're more open also for new or different ideas. But that's a side note. When it comes to priorities, well, everything is equally important at the end.
Thanks, Fred, for the answer. Yes, you really answered my questions, because that's the point. That's the point, that we have to be aware that this is a process. I mean, we saw the Ljutomer example where the implementation of the measure started in 2016. And after 6 years, there's a monitoring ongoing, and now we have some results. And now we are capable to continue the process in the same way, or to adopt some measures, to adopt some indicators for the future, as well as in Rudarska street in Velenje, and as well as in Zagreb. And what are, yes, Fred,
I just would like to add something to this, because when it's about planning, of course, we can always follow a certain circle or plan. But also the last 2 years showed us that there is disruption when it comes to a COVID-19 pandemic, or when it comes to Russian aggression in Europe. It disrupts all our daily work as well, either directly or indirectly. Also, when starting to plan and considering, always providing this certain kind of flexibility, I think that's also a very important part. Thank you.
Yes, of course. We have to be aware of all the circumstances in the right time. So if there is any question more, or somebody that would like to share with us. So Mr. Igor said, thank you very much for the insightful presentations and interesting Q&A. Congrats on great webinar. Thank you, Mr. Igor. And maybe some other examples from other cities that we may hear about. No? Okay. I would like to ask Fred one more time. And last question from me. What are the future plans on European level? I mean, you gave us the broader picture of the what's going on, and what are the CIVITAS plans, or some future examples that you can share with us? What can we expect?
Well, what can we expect? We can always expect the unexpected. But yes, you have heard probably of the European Green Deal, of the mission cities to get Europe climate neutral by 2050, and 100 cities, a little bit more, even 112 cities climate neutral by 2030. These are steps. These are sometimes little steps, but at least they're formulated. They're formulated, and also the national governments, the ministries, the member states have agreed on certain steps and approaches. Some years ago, there was a bright light with the Paris Agreement, but now looking back some weeks ago when we had the COP in Egypt, it was difficult results. Not a lot of steps have been made further. But for example, in terms of CIVITAS, this program is going to continue. Soon there will be new projects launched, dealing again also with behavior change, with awareness raising, because as I also said in my presentation, it's the combination of both. It's not only infrastructure, not only behavior change, because as I said also, it's no use to build a bicycle lane if nobody knows about it, or if you build it and nobody's going to use it, or it's built at the wrong place as well. So there are still things going on for the now also in Horizon Europe, so at least until 27. I think the Commission is doing a good job in launching programs and projects and so on and so forth. At the end, they just, we are the European Union, right? At the end, this is providing some financial support, and it fosters also the exchange cross-border, of course. Should not only rely, of course, on these EU fundings, but keep on our good work on the local level as well and on the national level.
Thanks, Fred. And Professor Slaven raised his hand.
Okay, hello to everyone. Just one question for Mrs. Čikeš. Maybe this question is a little bit beyond her, I wouldn't say expertise, but her presentation today. But I'm interested because she works at the city of Zagreb body. When Zagreb will get a sustainable urban mobility plan or will not get, or do you know the reasons why Zagreb still doesn't have it? Because in some countries it is obligatory, or sorry, compulsory or not. So I think 7 or 8 cities already in Croatia have their sustainable urban mobility plan. So Zagreb only has a master plan, as I know. So would you tell us something, just 1 or 2 sentences more about it?
No, you told everything that I know. This is not literally my expertise, but I know what is SUMP. I know everything about it. But I don't have an answer to your question, because now we do have this master plan, which is let's say the version of SUMP, but not officially SUMP. So I can't tell you anything directly about it, but hopefully it will be soon made, but at the moment we do not have it.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry that I couldn't be more precise.
I was just asking, maybe you have some more information, maybe in the near future there is a plan, or maybe City of Zagreb working on it or something, any information?
Yeah, I don't know the answer about.
I know that there was some version of sustainable urban mobility plan for the quarter of Maksimir, but it was not public announced. So
well, I was reading some also action plans according to SUMP, but it's not public, it's not defined, it's not finished. So hopefully it will be in sooner future. But at the moment we do have this master plan that we need to do something according to this thematic. This is something that we can have like all conclusion. Together.
And thank you for your very, very interesting presentation and this street art work for mobility, for increasing sustainable mobility and urban mobility. I hope it will work more it will work more in Zagreb in the near future. Sounds very, very great. Great idea.
This is something. This is really interesting project, and it's worldwide. So I think it will have like a great impact also on in publicity and in public way. So we will see. We'll see. It's next year we will be more smarter.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much for lovely words. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see my colleague Goran raised his hand. Or he's not. Okay. So if there is any question, or there is not, as we are coming to an end of these webinars and these presentations and Q&A round, I would maybe like to ask our presenters today. So there is question or there is not? Okay. Oh, Zoran raised hand. right?
Yes, here I am.
Okay.
I am Zoran from Belgrade. I'm from organization Streets for Cyclists, but both from Ne davimo Beograd, or Let's Not Let Belgrade Drown. That's kind of a left-green political party. And I would make a kind of a comment to this SUMP thing. Belgrade has SUMP right now, but if you don't have political will which stand behind it, you know, then you have nothing. You got to have like decision makers who are willing to go with the SUMP. It's actually pretty good SUMP. Pretty good SUMP. It was in finale 2020 or 21 with the European Commission or something like that. Then Grenoble won, you know, but at the end we didn't move from the zero with that SUMP. So my question would be for everybody is how to cope with the projects which are like put into smart plans, which promote car traffic, which promotes like shortcuts from for car traffic through the city center. We cannot, you know, go with the public transport project to propose it in political campaigns or something like that, because everybody says, okay, but let's first make, you know, like space for cars, and when we make space for cars, there will be enough space for everybody else, because these cars will disperse to new roads. You know, they don't see the bigger amount of car roads will bring more cars on the streets. Not that existing cars will spread to new network, but more cars will come. And that's the thing you cannot cope with in big cities. So my question would be how to go against that? Because that's kind of a mantra you cannot penetrate when you are like in political campaign in a big city, or you're trying to, you know, go with some cycling or public transport project to promote it. You know, everybody says yes, but you know, who knows, are people going to cycle or use more public transport? And for the cars there, you know, like there is a new bridge, there is a tunnel under the city, and everybody is pro for that kind of a project. I don't know if I made myself understood, but if not, somebody can help with the answer, how to make a successful campaign against more car traffic, then please answer. That would be it.
Thank you, Zoran, for your question. So maybe Mojca would like to answer.
I can offer an option. It's obviously very difficult. I think the best example was COVID. We saw everything is possible and cars are not needed on a daily basis. But to help with this, I would say it's a mosaic of things. I would say education, awareness, knowledge, examples, and most of all, maybe field trips. Because it's also in Slovenia when you say, okay, Leuven and Ghent and Groningen and all the foreign cities, they made so much improvements in recent years. It's like saying Ljutomer, how Ljubljana changed. We can do it. They did it. They are different. But if you bring people to the actual cities for them to see change and to listen to experts live, to be able to pose questions and to get this interactive feedback, I think this can be really this can really do the difference, because you live this change. You can see it with your own eyes. It's not somewhere else, but you see it happen. So yeah, try to just inform as much as possible. And it's also true that politicians should be in some aspects for the big changes the main target group, because in the end they decide whether which measures will go through the first. Will it be the more sustainable one or more traditional one?
Yes, if I may answer, it happens that not only politicians but also the experts are our problem, because they are also afraid to go against the average opinion, against the politicians, and nobody questions, you know, car-centric mantra. It's like, okay, but first we do this, and after that we are going to do public transport thing and cycling thing and that stuff. But when we do this, we are going to relax the traffic, and there will be more space. And after that, you know, we are going to go with your project. But I think that's totally wrong approach. But when I'm trying to speak that, you know, for me speaking with you, you know, we understand each other.
Yes.
But when I sit in the city hall or somewhere else, I am alone, and there are 20 people who are experts, traffic engineers from Institute for Urban Planning and all these city institutions, and they're, you know, like just thinking how to make car traffic go fast through the city of Belgrade, and that's it. You know, like that's their only goal. So I see there is proposal from something called analytic hierarchy process, which sounds logical, but I don't know, you know, is there some kind of website, you know, to try to present it to someone here or something like that? I think that Igor wrote it down.
Yes, there is a comment in chat, but there are more hands raised. So maybe Fred would like to answer Zoran's question.
Thank you. Well, I'm drier. There are multiple approaches we are all thinking about or could think about. And yes, you're right. It's not only the politicians, it's also the experts, it's the administration. It's their job also to provide the support to the politicians. We should never forget about this. And that's why it's so important to really work target group specific. And I agree, it's so important to foster an exchange and to bring the people together. And what is working very well is this peer exchange. And we know that we are human and we like to travel, at least most of us. And it helps to bring experts to different cities, to invite them there, really for a peer exchange, because they can talk honestly and openly with each other, because they are not going to elect the politicians or or put the experts into a certain position in the city administration. So this could help for a very open discussion and really to say, well, look, we have this issue. Help us. How have you done it in your city? And it doesn't need to be one of the northern cities. It doesn't need to be a city from the Netherlands and Belgium. And believe me, Amsterdam or Copenhagen, they're super famous for cycling. But have you ever been there and tried to experience the city as a pedestrian? Forget it. Forget it. So, and there's a big chance or a big opportunity also here in Europe, and it is also represented by ODRAZ and the CIVINET Slovenia, Croatia, Southeast Europe, because these kind of networks, they can support you and bring you together with even not like-minded people in whole Europe, but with the people in other cities or other regions that might support you and help you to find answers to your questions, or at least some ideas.
So Zoran liked your answer, friend. And Nina would like to add something to the question.
I just want to discuss also the problem is basically the same in city of Zagreb, and it's quite a smaller city than Belgrade, and there is a lot of different groups of the people, and you need to combine all the wills and the way of the transport and the way of their living, and it's really difficult to know to combine all of it in one. So of course the politicians have the mayor, how can I say, the mayor thing is to make the political will to do some changes, but also, you know, we have the example where we were trying to urban regenerate the area also in the city center. And the thing is to, the idea was to avoid and to put out of the cars from the city center. And the citizens which were, you know, let's say more open to some changes, they didn't want to move their cars in front of the apartment they lived. So it's like, if you are thinking that you have like open situation and yeah, now you will win, but you're not. And I don't have the answer. Like, it's nice to hear the other examples and the other answers, but I think that we are in some good, that we are like heading in a good direction, and we will find a way and solution in, I think, in the near future. But a lot of job and processes in front of us.
Yes, I agree here too. And thank you all for the questions and as well for the answers on these questions. And if there's not any questions, okay, I would like to ask our speakers for a short wrap-up about a sentence or two on their opinion on mobility behavior changes. So I would like to call Mojca first, if you like.
Yeah, maybe to bring Ljubljana up. I mean, if you would ask someone from Ljubljana in 2006 if changes on the scale that happened are possible, I could say that probably everyone would say it's not possible. But now it's 15 years later, and we have pedestrian zones, several footbridges, several new bicycle lanes. It's not perfect, but the improvement, it's really significant. So believe in change. Yeah.
Nice, believe in change. Nela, what would you like to conclude?
Yeah, I would also say this the same as Mojca did. Believe in change and surround yourself with like-minded people, because you will need it. This is also my answer to Mr. Zoran. So you really need good team around yourself to not stopping believing to the pet you set to work on, because you will have on your path a lot of obstacles, also by your fellow colleagues, by politicians, by city users. So it's really, really important to really believe yourself, and to the things you're working on are the right things. And it's also important that you get at peace with yourself, that the results of your work won't be visible like tomorrow or in a year, but rather in 5 or 10 years. And we really have to wait for this period of time to see the results and to say to yourself, okay, it was worth it. So be patient and again, believe in yourself.
Very nice, Nela. Thank you. Nina?
What to say? Well, I'm super optimistic in my life, so I think we will manage to do all of our goals if we are just combining all the energy together. You know, there is a lot of different specialists that need to work together to improve the situation in which we are now. So I don't think that we will do some kind of failures, maybe, you know, in the short period, but in the end we will succeed, and probably, you know, we will have something to show in next year, as in City of Zagreb, as the other participants here in this webinar. So yeah, that's it. We'll see each other next week, and we'll see if we are successful.
Thank you, Nina. Fred, what would you like to say in the end?
But just a little bit to repeat what I already said. I do believe that it's important to keep the people interested, informed, involved, and inspired, and that we also should really seize the moment. Now, talking about climate change, we are probably the last generation who can turn it. So yeah, let's keep doing our job and let's try our best, right?
Yes, of course, thanks. And what I concluded is CCCSSP, meaning communication, collaboration, consistency, small steps, and patience. And that's all, folks. Thank you. Thanks to all the speakers for great presentations, very inspiring and meaningful, I think, to all the participants. And thanks, of course, all the participants that joined this webinar. Stay tuned and watch out our website and our Facebook page for next activities, next webinars and similar activities that contributes to the sustainable mobility. So thank you very much and see you soon at some other activity. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.